All right, so I am so excited to have this mindfulness session. I thought it was important for us to, yes, learn, yes, network, but we are a whole woman, right? So that mental part of it is also critical, or we can't even do our jobs well, right? So I want to start off with kicking it over to the amazing Dr. Ayanna Abrams. And I want her to start us off with a mindful moment.
Hi, everyone. So, I want to slow us down a little bit. So, I first want everybody to get comfortable in your chairs. Sit back. If your feet can reach, my feet can't usually reach, but if your feet can reach the ground,
She's 4'11",
rest
y'all.
on 411. They found out last night. Rest. I want you to get in a comfortable position. I either want you to close your eyes or to bring your eyes down. Bring your gaze down. I want to slow everything down. We've had a big, powerful day. And I want to bring your energies and your intentions and your bodies to the moment. You might find your thoughts drifting into different places. I want it to come back here to community, to wellness, to wholeness, to self. And I want you to picture that for a few seconds. Picture being in and feeling your whole self. And I want you to keep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. To this moment, I want you to bring compassion, grace, forgiveness, and curiosity, not judgment. I want you to breathe in and exhale. And when you're ready, bring your eyes up to the front. How are you feeling? I know it's real different energy. That's what I do. I bring it down. I bring it down. I bring it down. But it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
I love that. So let me just share very briefly of how I came to know of the amazing Dr. Abrams. So this is a very full circle moment for me. So right before the pandemic, when everything shut down, literally the week before, Essence Magazine had a wellness house here in this hotel in a different space of the hotel. And they had just all the most amazing wellness experts in this building. And Dr. Ayanna was one of them. And me and Edie were actually at at the wellness, and we went to her session. And it was just her on a stage, and she was talking about boundaries. And she got our life just done real quickly. Like we were just like questioning of what are we doing, what are boundaries, how are we setting them, and how that relates to everything else in our life. And so when I thought about this conference, I put everything in that I love and I wanted you to be aware of that I thought would be helpful. So of course, I thought about Dr. Ayanna Abrams, and I said, oh, we got to bring her. We have to kind of close this out or come to a conclusion with kind of bringing it full circle for all of you as well. So we want to talk about boundaries and how that relates to our careers and our life, and we want to share that conversation with you. So this one, we're going to have a few questions we exchange, but we want this to be highly, highly interactive. So we're going to ask a few questions, but then I want you guys to start thinking about what's going on in your mind, what's going to help you for when you walk out of here for some new tools that you need. So please be selfish. Please think about it. And we're going to go ahead and start off, but get ready with your questions, okay? Y'all ready? Okay. You ready, Dr. Abrams?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
So boundaries, you speak about boundaries a lot. Being very transparent, I have a interesting relationship with boundaries, right? So I will set a boundary. I don't think I'm bad at setting a boundary, but I'll set a boundary, and then I'll be functioning well, and then I will cross over my own boundary. And that's with work, and that's with, even personal, and then I'll overextend. I don't know if y'all believe this, but a lot of you have heard me say this. I am a high functioning introvert. So when I think Tiara said this, when my battery gets low, y'all, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done, okay? And so that impacts everything. And so I guess I'll start with this. What made you even start? You're expert in all things, right? But I know you about boundaries. Why boundaries, and what are they?
Absolutely. Good questions, and I really appreciate your example of being able to name that there's a vulnerability there, right? For I'd say probably every Black woman and people in general when it comes to taking care of ourselves by ways of saying no and kind of protecting different kind of spaces that we have and different values that we have. And it's really hard, not because we are deficient, but because we're in a system that doesn't really value boundaries, right? We're taught from a very, very young age to people please. I always say that I really appreciate, I do not have children, so I think I have a different appreciation because I have not raised a toddler, but I have an appreciation for toddlers because if there's one thing, toddlers are very clear on what they like and what they don't like. And whether it's today, tomorrow, whether it's this morning, I like the red coat, and this afternoon, I don't want the red coat, although I wore it to daycare and I don't want it anymore. They are very, very clear. They say, I like this, I don't like this, I like you, I don't like you, I like the pudding, I don't like the pudding. They will tell you very clearly, but by the age of 3, they slow all that down. Because what happens is that we teach them that it's more important to be liked, right, than to be connected to yourself. When they start saying no, parents have a whole lot of problems. Oh no, they learn the word no, right? When that is actually their power. They're telling you what they like and what they don't like. And because it's hard for us, we start undoing it, right? We start saying like, no, I know you don't like it, but I know you don't want to go there, but I know you don't want to give them a hug, but it's grandma, grandpa, right? So we start working this out of children at a very, very young age. So what do you think? By 20 years later than that, oftentimes we are so disconnected from ourselves, right? And then you add in different identity factors, right? Gender, race, religion, sexuality. And the world tells you, be who you are. Not like that, though. Not like that. That's a little too much like you are. That's a little too, right? So the reason that I focus on boundaries, and not as a general, right, way of caring for yourself, but specifically for Black women, is that for centuries, right, we have been told that we are not allowed to have boundaries. For centuries, there have been rules made about our bodies, right? There have been rules made about what we can say, where we can be, who we can love, how we can love them, how we procreate, if we can get married. There have been all these rules that have been made for ourselves, so it makes complete sense that we don't know how to set boundaries. We've never been allowed to. And quite frankly, it's actually really risky for us to set boundaries. There's much more loss for Black women practicing boundaries and vulnerability publicly and in the workspace, right? So we don't have language for it. We haven't been, taught and kind of modeled to have the courage to do it. And then when we do all that work to get there, people say you're not allowed to have them. How dare you? How dare you say no, right? People are very used to getting what they want from Black women's bodies. Very, very used to that. So when you show up in these spaces and you say, no, my body is mine, my time is mine, my money is mine, my sex is mine, a lot of people don't know what to do with that. And what do? They want to make us shrink, all right? And that's workplace, that's partnership, that's the school meeting, that's the neighborhood, that's the church. No, I only have an hour, right?
Uh-oh.
So that is why I specialize in this, because this comes up with every single woman who I work with, every single Black couple who I work with, that Black women have not only a struggle to set boundaries, but they have a struggle navigating their boundaries not being honored. And what happens when we learn that our boundaries are not going to be honored, we remove them. I'm not going to deal with that heartache and that disappointment. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm just going to remove the need. The need doesn't actually go away. We just stop talking about it, right? So my goal, and in my work and in my community work, is to make sure that we're still talking about it, because quite frankly, we're in a mental health crisis, and Black women are in a very specific, unique mental health crisis. And we need to have our language, we need to have our community, we need to have our words. And if there's one thing I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna save Black women. So that is why I am here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think just as a Black woman, it's just like you said, it's very different being in Black and brown bodies, right? Because when it translates a lot of when you're in especially corporate America, right? And you don't want to work 60 hours a week, but you want the promotion. You want to get whatever that money goal is, whatever that number is, but what you're taught is to hustle, 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 and what that translates into a lot of times is, the reality is we're mothers, it doesn't even matter if you're a mother or not, but you have your own life, and then that life, that personal part shrinks. And what I found in my experience is that you are almost expected to come and show up at work as if you were a robot. It was robot mode. We don't really talk about our family. We don't really talk about our kids. We don't really talk about, I have to leave early because my kid has soccer practice. I got to pick up my kid because I have a newborn and he's in daycare and he has to be picked up, right? It's almost like you feel it like when I had my son, even though I worked at home at the time, you almost feel really bad. Like you're always apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I remember I was listening to a podcast, and one of the women said she found herself apologizing because she had to get on a call and she had to turn her camera on and she didn't have makeup on. And she said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my face. Like, I'm sorry I don't have makeup on. I'm not presenting a certain way, right? So can you talk to us a little bit about how that relates to those boundaries in the workplace?
Absolutely. I was here the whole day and watching all the different panels and hearing all the conversation. I said, oh, I got to remember where I am, right? I'm at a PM conference. I was like, everybody's talking about work, but I haven't heard anybody talk about being well. I didn't hear that this morning. I didn't hear that, right? Because we are not taught, right, that to start there. We're taught to find wellness and figure it out after we make the money and after we are the good partners and the good parents and the good community members and the good churchgoers and the good citizens and and travel well. Then we figure out wellness. I didn't hear not one thing about wellness, right? And particularly what this society has taught us is that wellness comes from the hustle and it comes from the achievement. That achievement is wellness. And I also recognize the flip side of that for Black people and for Black women in particular is that financial success, not whole success, but financial success has also been a way in which we have found survival. So we're in a very, very tricky and very messy position, right? Because that is the way in which we have learned to take care of ourselves when other people disappoint us, when other people hurt us, when other people leave us, is that if I can take care of myself, no matter what y'all do.
Yeah.
Right? So we're in this very, very unique position, right, of where, like I said, financial success has actually become a part of our survival in this world because everybody has disappointed us. Everybody has hurt us, right? And money feels like the way in which we can just make sure that we are always protected and preserved, but that makes for a very messy relationship when everything now gets connected to, well, I've got to make more money to be better.
Yeah.
I've got to make more money to survive better, right, in these ways. And what does it mean when we're quite literally not taking care of our health, right? So when we talk about boundaries are not just in one area, and burnout doesn't just happen in one area of our lives, right? But boundaries are across all different areas. So we can have physical boundaries, we can have sexual boundaries, we can have boundaries around our time, our energy, our money. I was talking about money in that talk at Essence. Our money, our resources, and our emotional energy. There are all these different areas, right, in which we need to set boundaries, which we need to set better boundaries. And when it comes to being in the workspace, right, our workspace kind of it can encroach in any of those areas. Time is the biggest one. So when I work with companies and, somebody tells me that, our boss emails us at 11:30 at night and then says, like, hey, don't burn out. Take care of yourself. but you're in my inbox.
Right.
Right?
But they don't
And because there's
practice it.
there's a power dynamic that's there, right? They can say whatever they want to make it seem as though they are prioritizing your wellness, right? But what comes up for you is that I have to respond, right? That's the boundary violation. I can't take care of myself when somebody else needs something from me. I cannot take care of myself if there's something else to be done. I have to wait. And when you find yourself saying, oh, I have to wait, my sleep needs to wait, my nutrition needs to wait, my movement needs to wait, me spending time with my family needs to wait, me spending time with myself needs to wait, my doctor's appointments need to wait because doctors are only open during business hours. Like, this is what we say. I can't take care of my body because my body has needs during the work hour. And then we get mad at the doctors for only being open from 8 to 5 because I have to work, right? That is the system that has been created. We get mad at everything else for getting in the way of our work. Versus why aren't we mad at the workplace for getting in the way of our lives? You messing with my life. I got things to do, right? But again, what we have been taught is that work comes first and everything else comes after. And the goal of boundaries is at least to either neutralize that and make that a bit more equal, or what I actually help women do is to flip that we fit work into our life, right? Because work-life balance isn't really a thing. And a lot of corporations have sold that to y'all. And they give you a yoga day. They give you a wellness hour. They do this kind of stuff. They give you some pens and some stuff, all right? Some pizza.
Right.
Right.
Not the pizza.
Right? But they don't give you a raise.
Nope.
They don't give you time off. Right? Those are the things that are actually much more meaningful for you to live a whole life. You don't need more pizza.
Yeah.
You can get pizza with the raise
Yeah.
that they give you, right? With fair a lot of y'all ain't even getting fair compensation. Give me the fair compensation and then give me more than that, right? But give me that and give me my autonomy in terms of my time to then actually take care of myself. Over here, that's much more effective for your health than giving you these things that they sell to you as wellness things, right? And those are the areas in which some corporations are doing a lot better in that, but oftentimes it is very performative. It's extremely performative, which is why you are still left feeling very tired and then also very confused. Because you're like, oh, it's a great company. They give me this and they give me this and they give me this. If I'm still tired, it means that something is still problematic.
Yeah. So you triggered me a little bit, Dr. Ayanna.
It happens.
So it's funny. So when I worked in corporate my whole career, and then some of you who don't know, I quit last year to just do this full time. And look what we have done. Thank you. So one of the things that was really interesting, you just made me really think about it and put two and two together. When I was in corporate, you work a lot and it's very easy, and it is legit that it's in the system where you're just working a lot. But I think I also told myself that, it's just them. Because I think from listening to you just now, this is my whole little therapy session for myself. But I think a lot of times, especially as Black women, we are told to work double time as hard, right? You have to work harder just to get ahead, just to be equal. And a lot of us, this is the generation that our parents came from. So this is how they programmed us because they were looking out for us, right? Out of love. But what it ended up looking like is we went into these systems in corporate America where they expect you to go above and beyond. We are a lot of times overqualified already and working harder. But I think instinctively in our mind, we feel like, well, we have to work those long hours and we have to not do this stuff with the kids and not go to the doctor. Because I'm one of those people who didn't always use all of my benefits.
Your PT.
Because I'm like, nope. I worked in healthcare. So I worked on the pharma side of healthcare, United Healthcare. I'm like, it's busy season. I can't do anything. I just got to work, right? And not just looking at the bigger picture. But then here is the kicker. When I left out and I've been a full-time entrepreneur for a year, I was still doing the same things. I was still running myself in the ground because I was kind of pre-programmed.
It's internalized now.
Yeah. And so what I start realizing, and I am working on now, I promise you, but what I start realizing is that why am I creating this false sense of urgency? Why am I'm the one who, yes, we have things to do, things don't stop, whether you're in corporate or you're an entrepreneur, but a lot of those bad habits carried over because that's all I knew how to do. And so I would just run myself in the ground. So could you maybe speak on maybe ways we can start establishing those boundaries and kind of recognizing for ourselves? Because if in full transparency, I have my son, I have my husband. I always say I want that work-life balance. Listen, one of my big goals for next year, y'all want to hear one of my big goals? To take a nap.
Yes.
I want to take naps during the week. I want to take naps because I get exhausted and I really want to make sure I'm always at my peak, right? But it's a huge goal for me, and I keep undermining my own boundaries because I'm like, well, let me just take this one more meeting. Let me just take this one more call. Let me just do this, when I'm creating this false urgency around myself and I'm running myself into the ground. So I don't know, can you speak on some of the ways, one, of what does setting boundaries look like?
Sure.
And how do we get into that mode, and it's probably boundaries, but of not feeling guilty when we create those boundaries and take downtime? Because sometimes I don't know what to do with myself. And sometimes I legit feel guilty because I figured, well, if I have an hour,
I should be.
fill in the blank, right? So how do we get to that?
So I want to name a few things right before answering those two questions, particularly when we talk about ways in which we have internalized urgency and we have internalized doing, right, over being. And oftentimes that's learned behavior, right? We are taught that over time. We are taught that in the school system. We are taught that certain days look like this. That is a pipeline, right, to corporate work. That has nothing to do with your actual body, right? That, children are waking up at, to go to school at 6:45 or 7 p.m. when children actually need more sleep as they get older, right? But school is starting earlier. Those are all ways to kind of train you for a particular workforce. And when I think about which I talk to black women about all the time, we had been taught to work, twice as hard to get just as far. Not even further, but to get just as far, right? That is rooted in racism, right? And what I specialize in is racism-based trauma, not race-based trauma, racism-based trauma. It's not happening because of your race. It's happening because of the racism, right, that is around you, that has taught us, and that has been actually true, that we didn't make that up, right, that we needed to do more, that we need to do more to get just as far, to be seen, to make it into the rooms, right, with whoever it is that kind of makes the decisions or has the power or gives out the money or kind of gives out the tips or the tricks. So while that is not something that was made up, that's not something that's random, it is on us, right, to be able to slow that down, right, and believe that me being in the room is just enough. I don't need to do more. And if I'm in spaces that require this much of me, where I can't rest, or I'm not spending time with my family, or I don't have friends, or all those things are happening, then I actually need to reevaluate the space, not me. I need to look outward. But what happens is that we take all that information in and say, well, I can't keep up. And I'm supposed to keep up, so I need to start doing more. That's actually probably a sign that you need to be doing less out there. And you need to be doing more in here. And that's how we kind of switch that train of thought and that practice that says that we need to do more. Because what happens when you do more work? You get more work.
You're rewarded with more work.
Yes, because I know y'all are all good at it.
Yeah.
And once you're good at it, they want more from you. They ain't gonna pay you no more for it, but they just want more from you. So you have to also be mindful of where you give your good and where you give your great and where you give your best, right? Because if you want that to show up in other parts of your life, you have to actually give it to other parts of your life, right? But when you give people your best and you give people all your stuff, they're gonna want more. You are in charge of that energy, right? And that's where the boundary comes in. I have to be able to say, this is good enough right here. And let them call it quiet quitting, and let them call, what's the other one I'd heard? Quiet quitting, there was something else that I'd heard. Acting your way, let them call it all the things, right? That is systemically, right, there to make you feel guilty, to make you work more. There are these things that are put in place that are way, way above us, right? When the systems get scared that you start taking care of yourself, because they know what's gonna happen when you start taking care of yourself, right? You're either gonna leave, right? Or you're going to do less in that space because you're doing more, right, for yourself outside of work. That's a reaction from them to now create these new names, but it's all to offer you guilt. And you get to say, I decline the offer to the guilt. I don't have to take on the guilt just because you give me guilt. In those same ways, that's another kind of boundary, right? When you find that I am feeling guilty for this, I get to say, that's not mine. Somebody is offering me that, and I get to say, I decline the offer to the guilt. Right? And that's from an email, that's from quiet quitting, that's from a meeting that says, hey, we've noticed this. But you want to pay attention to what's coming up internally for you. And I think if the more that we're able to have these conversations and root it in systems and root it in racism, we can also begin to differentiate ourselves from them. Because oftentimes these things happen and we think it's us.
Yeah.
And they will tell you that it's you, right? But you have to think about, who does that message serve? If I'm always the problem, who does that message actually serve? And it doesn't serve you, it always serves them. And then you get to make a decision. Am I here to make you rich? Am I here to make me rich? If I ain't here to make you rich, right? Then we have to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to either show up at the table, right, in these more boundaried ways, or create our own tables, right? And the most practical ways that we do this, so one thing I do want to name is that boundaries is a practice, right? While it is a skill set, you practice it the same way you have learned everything else in your life, and that is repetition, right? Repetition and practice builds confidence. So even if you start setting boundaries and your jaw's shaking, you drafted the email, but you ain't sent it yet. You can't put their name in the subject just in case you accidentally hit send. Right?
You know all the tricks.
Right? I know them. I have done them. I know them. Right? That is part of the practice. Right? Oftentimes, that's the part that scares us away. It's just like, oh, I hear people say, like, I don't have any boundaries. We set boundaries all the time. We don't view them as boundaries. For example, you set a boundary with me last night.
What did I do?
What boundary did you set last night? It was great. It was great.
I don't know. What did I do?
I asked for a last minute change.
Oh.
And she said, no.
I said, no, ma'am.
She said, no, it's too late. And I said, okay, that was a boundary.
I was proud of myself for that.
Yes.
I'm just going to let you know. Because the old me would have said, you know what, let me go try to get to my computer and do it. And I knew I didn't have the time. This conference, planning this, has taught me so much too. And I am practicing my boundaries.
You did it with me.
Thank you.
But see how she didn't even recognize that she set a boundary. She knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
We set boundaries.
Because I felt bad for saying no. I am definitely a person who I instinctively just want to say yes. I really, really do. I'm a people pleaser. And I'm going to try to be a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
But, and I think I don't know. It's something I'm working on.
Yes, but what you did last night was, I am willing to feel uncomfortable in order to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And that is what this requires.
Yeah.
We typically want to set boundaries and we want to take care of ourselves, but we want it to feel good.
Yeah.
We want everybody to approve and like them and honor them and respect them. And we want this to be easy. We want a life hack around this. This is hard work because this is life's work, right? So there are going to be some relationships and some dynamics where when you say no, when you say later, when you say not right now, when you say not this way, people are going to be fine with it. I ain't say nothing else to you last night.
Yeah.
I knew I was asking. I'm making a last minute request. I was like, dang, if this could be, but let me see.
Yeah.
So but I took on the risk to ask, and I was willing to be disappointed, right? Because the other piece of boundary setting is that if you are not good at respecting people's boundaries, you're going to have a hard time setting your own. If you violate people's boundaries, if you violate people's boundaries, you're going to have a hard time navigating your own. If you are the pusher, if you're the one who says, yeah, but like it should be like this, you have to reevaluate yourself. That is one of the best practices, is to really pay attention to when people say no to me. How do I feel? What do I do? What's my relationship with other people's no? What do I do when I feel disappointed when somebody doesn't show up in a certain way that I wanted them to show up, just by sheer chance that I wanted them to show up this way? This happens a lot with text messages and emails. Just because you texted me at 7:07 doesn't mean that I have to respond at 7:00. You decided to text me. Why you ain't text me back? I didn't know that we agreed to text at 7:07. You didn't ask me if I was available, and now you feel entitled, right, to my energy, to my time, to my attention. You didn't ask me if you could talk to me at 7:07, right? That's not a practice we are oftentimes in.
Yeah.
So usually when I'm talking to clients about this, they're like, I can't say that. I can't say that, but you can. And we were talking last night about there are a lot of us who do have the language. So I have people say, how do I set a boundary with my, well, we're going to work, how about say a mother-in-law, because a whole nother conversation. How do I set this boundary with my boss because I'm not able to be there at 5 p.m.? And I'll say, well, you just said it to me. You have the language. You don't have the courage. Right? Oftentimes we have the language. We do not have the courage, and we're not willing to take the risk to be disappointed. We're not willing to take the risk to learn how to tolerate the distress of if someone says no or if someone's going to be upset with us. And then on the flip side of that, some of us don't have the language. Some of us literally do not know how to say, I need this.
Yeah.
I want this. I will oftentimes give my clients an assignment that says, I want you to walk through this week and just talk about your wants. Just say it out loud. I want blank. And I have women who I work with who have never said, I want. It has been wiped from their vocabulary, or it's never been taught that they're allowed to have one, so they don't say I want. I will coach people saying, I need this. Tell me you need something. It's oh, no, I can't tell them I need this. Yes, tell them you need this. That language is not there for them, but they're very responsive to other people's needs. They're very responsive to other people's wants. So they know what want and need is, right? We don't know that it also applies to us. And our bodies, and our health, and our psyche, and our time, and our energy. So the things that you respect and honor that other people show up with, what could it look like to honor those same things in yourself? But that practice does start with you.
Yeah. Ooh.
I know.
So I have a question. I'm going to make this the last question, and then I want to open it up for some questions from you guys. But here's a doozy of one, because I just got triggered again. So for me, love my mother.
Oh, I said mother-in-law.
Yeah,
Okay.
So love my mother, but I think a lot of us come from parents in that generation who didn't have the luxury of therapy. They held it all in. They have all the trauma. They raised us, and they taught us the best that they could. But what they didn't give us was two things: the words of how to set those boundaries, because maybe they probably don't have them themselves, and the courage to make sure we enforce those boundaries. I know you made a post even on Instagram of like phrases, and we talked about
some
even,
scripts.
we talked about even before of a lot of times of like negotiating and moving in these spaces in corporate. Sometimes it's just the fact that you don't have the words. What are the words when it comes to how do I set some boundaries? And then the other part of that is, even if I have the words, how do I have the courage? Like, what does it look like to muster up that courage? Because I'm 42 years old, and I'm still at times saying, oh, but how do I say that so I don't hurt their I don't want to hurt their
I
feelings.
knew that was coming.
But I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth, because if I say yes to you, I got to say no to my son. If I say yes to you, I got to say no to doing something with my husband. Or if I say yes to someone, I don't even have, I'm a high function introvert. I recharge with silence, with being by myself, no matter how many people I love. So what are some of those words, and how do you even, what does courage even look like to enforce it?
So when talking about courage, the courage that I'm talking about is the courage and the willingness to disappoint others so that you're not disappointing yourself. We are very good at disappointing ourselves so that no one else ever feels disappointed. And usually when people are asking me about how to do this or how to do this, and you said the key phrase that comes next, how do I do this without hurting their feelings, making them mad, making them annoyed, making them feel like a burden, all this stuff, right? And oftentimes what's happening is that we are trying to take care of ourselves and we're trying to control other people at the same time.
Okay.
You cannot control other people's responses. You cannot control their feelings. And you're also not responsible for their responses or their feelings. And that is something that is so difficult because we have been taught to be responsible for other people's feelings, the people pleasing. We have been taught to have such a gaze on other people. I'm looking at your body language. I'm paying attention to your tone of voice. I'm paying attention to the energy in the room before I can say anything to you. So the first part of that is the only part you have control over, right? I need this. I'm saying no to this. The rest of it is on that other person. And the courage comes with, how do I take care of myself and tolerate when this person is upset with me? And if you haven't figured that part out, you're not going to figure out boundaries. If you do not practice allowing people to be upset with you, if you do not practice allowing people to be upset and having it not be your responsibility and not personalizing it, it's going to be very difficult to set boundaries. All right? And the piece within that is that other people are allowed to be upset. They let you be upset. Other people are allowed to be upset, and it's important for us as humans to let other people have their human experience. But we walk around in the world saying that I'm never supposed to be a burden. I'm not supposed to get in nobody's way. I'm not supposed to be an inconvenience. I am not supposed to make anything harder for anyone else in life. And that's not your responsibility in this world. You are not supposed to show up and make sure that everything is easy for everyone else while you take on all the burden, right? Relationships are a shared thing, right? So the responsibility for you is also to make sure that you are paying attention to what's mine and what's theirs. And that's what a boundary is, right? It's the line between me and you where I can still respect both of us. I'm taking care of myself and I'm considering you. I'm not taking care of you before I consider me. But I'm taking care of myself in consideration of you. So I hear a lot of conversations about the word selfish. Right? Be selfish. Take care of it. And when we look up the dictionary definition of selfish is about a lack of consideration. You're not considering them. You are considering them and saying, hey, it's still important for me to go to bed at this time because I'm a mess tomorrow when I don't. And that doesn't stop with tomorrow. I'm a mess the whole weekend. Right? It's me taking care of myself and saying, hey, I got a 2-drink limit. Because I'm older these days and I don't recover the same way. And I don't just need a few hours and hair of the dog in the morning. This is going to take me out for about 3 days. I have to set my limits, even though my friend is saying, this is what we do every Friday night. You can't just stop showing up. Yes, I can. Because you're not dealing with me for the next 3 days. I am, right? So it's about that willingness and that courage and that confidence and the practice that says, I am always allowed to take care of myself. I should not have to choose that in any way. And it'll come up in some harder decisions, particularly if you are a parent, it shows up in those or if there is a dependent. But the practice is you reminding yourself that I get to take care of myself at any given point on any given day and by any means necessary. I get to take care of myself. I will take care of myself. And the people who will be around me and who are healthy enough to be around me will also get on board with that, even if they have a hard time. Let them have a hard time. Let them struggle with it, right? That kind of practice that they're building to figure out, oh, this new thing that's happening with you, oh man, well, okay, well, I guess we're not doing Saturday mornings anymore because they need to sleep in, or I guess I can't email them, or I guess I won't get this response. Let them struggle with that. Because we also need to see that people are willing to work to have the privilege of having access to us. All right? I need to know that you're willing to work on this. I need to know that you're willing to confront your stuff if you want to be in relationship with me. But if I make everything so easy for you, right, then who am I really with? I'm not being myself, and you're just being the self who's responding to my easy self, which is not me. Right? So when it comes to people pleasing, a lot of people think that is them having a genuine relationship, but no, that's you sending in this representative that makes everything easy for someone else. And if you're only in relationship with a person where everything is easy for them, you're not actually in relationship with them. Right? You're in relationship with the ease, but you don't know what they look like. I need to know people's fighting styles. What happens when you're disappointed? You start cussing? Like, what happens? Like, I need to know, do you retreat? Do you start cussing? Like, what goes on? Do you avoid? Do you start watching TV? I need to know what it's like when you are confronted with your own limits so that I can then decide that this is a healthy and safe relationship with me, right? I need to know what happens when my boss is disappointed. I don't want to disappoint you, but because I'm human, you're going to disappoint me and I'm going to disappoint you. I need to know what your style is when you feel disappointed. Do you start harassing my phone when you can't find me? Or do you say, hey, couldn't find you last night. Let's make sure that we have these meetings and let's collaboratively do this together. Or do you start pinging me all over the place? And then do you penalize or retaliate against me because I didn't do something? Like, I need to know those things because I need to know where I'm safe and where I'm not safe. And then it's on me that if I'm not safe, I need to make a different decision. I can't make you make me safe.
Yeah.
I can tell you what helps me to feel safe, and then I need to pay attention to data. And if I've told you a few times and you're not getting it, I need to pivot. I can't wait for you to take care of me. I need to pivot.
Yeah, I love that. All right, LB, are there any questions? Let's have a discussion. We don't want this to be a one-way path here, so all right, perfect.
All right, thank you so much. I have a comment to make. How many boss women are in the house today, if you know you're a boss woman? What does boss woman mean to you? I think that sometimes some women have a challenge with being content in stillness. And so that boss woman, that narrative we've given ourselves is to keep going and going and going. And so we say that we don't have boundaries, but we do not even give ourselves the opportunity to create boundaries. And I think as well, just the comparison, the wanting to keep going and going and going, we don't have the capacity to set up any form of boundary. And so even if when we hear words like this, we don't know what it means to us. Because when we leave here, to us, being a boss woman means work ends by 5 p.m., but my computer is going to be open. What am I looking for? I don't know.
It's just open.
It's just open.
Tabs.
So we have to change the narrative for ourselves. If you want to change the story, you have to start by yourself. Because you can't put do not disturb on your phone, but yeah, you'll be the one checking if any messages come through.
That's
You
you
can
violating your own boundaries.
Yes, because you don't even know what that means. You can have lunch hour blocked on your calendar, but you're on your computer checking emails and pinging people. Because we want to be boss women. Because there's a narrative that says boss women have to always be on the go. So I think self-honesty is super key to setting boundaries. So you have to ask yourself, what does boundary look like for me? Thank you.
Love
And I
is
want to add
Stella.
to that piece, that's great, about the not the advent, but the rise of the boss women and the rise of the girl boss and the rise of hustle and all these things. And really paying attention to historically, right, who are you trying to be like? And historically, our ideas of what it means to be a boss is white men, right? That's where all of that comes from historically, right? So when we think about the racism, kind of how that has been internalized in terms of work and in terms of money, in terms of success, being mindful of, am I just kind of repeating something? Am I trying to look like that? Am I trying to get what's associated, right, with white wealth, right, with white success, right? And that is made for them. That's not how success looks like for black people in black families. The family, the nuclear family, all those things are actually not for black people in terms of our history. So what does it mean in terms of what that goal is in terms of even being a boss? I work with a lot of women who will work and work and work, and they will make more money and more money and more money every year. And they say that they're working for freedom. And I said, well, when are you gonna act like you're free? You are working for all this freedom, but you won't take a vacation. You won't take a nap, right? You won't say no to anything. You put the D&D and the thing on your, and you don't take a break, right? What's this version of freedom that you are envisioning, and what would it look like to actually do it, not just talk about it? Because making more money and doing more work is not freedom. And working more is actually not what's gonna bring you wealth.
Sure.
Right? People who work more hours, they make more money, but that's separate. Income is very separate from wealth. Working more is not going to get you wealth. It's going to get you burnt out and tired and not here long enough to do anything with that income. Right? Wealth, right, is more passive, streamlined. That's a whole other conversation. But working more is not going to get you the wealth, right, that you think. And that's typically, again, in terms of what white people have taught us about what wealth looks like for us. Because wealth don't look like more work for white people. Wealth looks like passive income. It looks like independent money, right, from generations. It looks like old Georgia money. That's wealth for them. It's not working more hours. You don't see them in the workplace, and they're wealthy, right? So being mindful of also what is it that you are working so hard for if you're not going to act like you have it.
Love it. Did we have a question over here? I saw a whole bunch of hands.
Hi. I have what it feels like a little bit of a dumb question. But I've been listening to you talk about gathering the data and letting people figure out when you draw the boundary, like what they do. We want to learn what they are going to do in certain situations. But literally, what are we doing while we watch them do that? Like, are we just sitting there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's sitting there. Because you do want to actually gather data about like what is coming up for them, what am I noticing in terms of how they're responding, but you're also paying attention to what's coming up for me while I'm waiting. And oftentimes that's anxiety, that's guilt. Oh my goodness, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna be mad at me, right? But you wanna get data about what do I start telling myself, because all that is a story. Until they do something, you have no information, right? What am I telling myself they're about to do next with this boundary? What am I telling myself they're going to do with their feelings of disappointment, right? Depending on how intense that is, you might also want to distract yourself. Let me go do something with my life instead of just waiting here, right, to see how they respond. Because sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, right? Sometimes that also looks like engaging in some self-care activities, some self-soothing. If you're feeling really, really riled up in terms of the anxiety or the guilt that comes up. Sometimes that means looking at your community. That's why I create groups for Black women around boundaries. So you have people to talk to. Oh man, I am telling myself this, or this. And you need to sometimes talk that through. That is part of your own practice, but that'll be a unique practice based on what your cues are and based on what your triggers are and kind of what makes you feel anxious. But it means you have to find out how to take care of yourself when you do set that boundary. But you're wanting to pay attention to both sets of data. Right? What's true? What do I tell myself versus what do they do? And how do I still take care of myself based on my needs around anxiety or overthinking or those kinds of things?
Thank you.
Good question.
Hazel, you choose and we'll go.
Oh, you guys can choose out. I just looked up
Pressure's
and there's
on.
all these
Pressure's
beautiful
on.
hands.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for
Absolutely.
all the gems that you're dropping right now. Like, I'm getting my whole life. But my question to you is, how can I focus on being rather than doing when I have this strong desire to contribute to my family financially? I come from humble beginnings, and one of my goals, like growing up, is I'm going to make enough money that I can give back to my family and just, help them live a better life. And so I typically work a lot. I would consider myself to be overemployed with 2 full-time jobs and 1 part-time job. And so I want to focus more on the being, but how is that possible given my context?
Yeah. I think that's a really good question in that we all have our own histories with money. And we all have our own histories with financial stability or insecurity or literacy, just based on kind of how you grew up, where you grew up, any of those circumstances. So one, it's important to understand whatever your context is and to be able to tell the truth about that and to be able to offer yourself some compassion, some grace around that. 2, what I think could be helpful for you is you've made a separation, right? Or you've made a decision that the way in which I give back to my family is money. And I wonder what your family could get if you were present. And I wonder if that were valued in the same way that money is valued, right? Or valued maybe more than money is valued, what you could also experience in being present with your family, energetically, physically, all those things, right? But it sounds like there's a narrative that you had that in order to repair what I experienced, I need to make sure they have money. I need to make sure that that is the way in which I'm taking care of them. And I don't know if that's a decision that you made or that they made. So sometimes we make decisions for other people that you need this from me because that was my history and I never want you to experience that. I don't know if that's what your family needs from you. I wonder what it could look like if you asked them. That would be part of the being. All right. Good question.
That was beautiful.
So just a little bit of background. I realized in project management and being in this, it almost kind of feels like I was groomed from this from a very early age, being the oldest daughter and always being like the dependable one, the reliable one. I'm always got the one that got the tissues and the hand sanitizer and everything in my bag.
First child.
I was like a family manager. And then it just translated, well, I was the planner and the preparer in all my jobs and work. So I feel like I'm constantly struggling to balance. How do I not internalize when I start setting those boundaries? Like, I'm gonna disappoint grandma because I'm gonna tell her I can't cook for her on this day. Or I'm gonna disappoint mom because she's expecting me to do this. Or I'm gonna disappoint my family, or I'm gonna disappoint someone at work. And it always feels like I am letting someone down if I stop being the dependable one, because I have always been the dependable one.
Yep. That's one of the hardest parts of this, is what we call is distress tolerance. That in order for me to take care of myself, I need to practice tolerating not always being there for other people. One thing I had said in my talk, that you cannot be there for everyone all the time, every time that they need you. You, in your human self, cannot do that. We have taught people that over time, and what happens is it becomes this codependent relationship, right? Where now they have taught us this when I was younger, so now I'm like this. So now they just expect this of me as I get older, and I can't change. So one is giving yourself permission to change if it's no longer working for you, all right? And two, what I think is always really helpful, that I don't think a lot of the people who talk about boundaries talk about this, is that setting boundaries doesn't have to be this antagonistic, hostile, no grandma, I ain't coming. Like, it don't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. But I wonder what it could look like if in collaboration you talk to your grandmother about, hey, I know that I've been raised this way and I know that I've been doing this way, and then tell her what's not working for you. I want to practice this. I'm having a really hard time balancing out, my appetite and my nutrition and my sleep, and I've got to get more sleep. So when you asked me to do this thing, I was thinking about the bedtime schedule I just set up, and that's buttoned up right against it. I really want to practice it. Is there another time that I could do that? Is there another time that we can figure this out together? Black women in community being able to offer that kind of vulnerability increases the likelihood that not only you being able to set the boundary, but that you get support from it. But you don't have to do this in isolation. And oftentimes that's what I hear from like boundary practice. All of a sudden you just start saying no to everybody. That's not how it has to be, right? You want to be able to offer empathy. So something that I think I'd even shared that on social media the other day, that there is a way in which to let people know that I'm doing something new. I had a therapy appointment and we were talking about the fact that I really have not been going to my medical appointments, and I keep putting, family and work over this, and I want to focus this year on making sure I go to all of my medical appointments. Can you help hold me accountable to that? Sometimes that might mean that I won't be able to do this or whatever it might mean, right? But making it collaborative and allowing people to help you take care of yourself also strengthens your relationships. People want to be there for you, but you also need to know who doesn't want to be there for you. You need to know if people say, you want to go to the doctor? Instead of doing whatever it is for me, you want that data. And oftentimes we are people pleasing to avoid that data. But you want to know who doesn't want you to take care of yourself in service of them. You want to know what friends, where it's more important for them for you to be at the happy hours than to manage your drinking problem. You want to know who those people are, and you're only going to know by telling them that I need to change something for myself. And it's okay if you don't understand. But that means that you have to practice being okay with people not understanding. Ideally, we would have approval, we would have understanding, we would have an honoring, we would have respect, we would have just people saying, you want to set a new boundary? Great. But at bare minimum, I just need your collaboration. I just need you to not get in my way of me taking care of myself. If you can't give me all these other things, I need you to at least not get in the way of me taking care of myself. And I hope to see you on the other side of that. But if I don't, I'm still going to take care of myself. And I've got other people to talk to. Hopefully I've got a therapist to talk to about some of this. That I'm not also doing this by myself. But I wonder what that could look like if you were willing to have a collaborative conversation with those people about what's not working for you and seeing if there's a collaborative way in which you can come up with something new. But bring them in on it. Bring people in on changes that you're making in your life. Most people in your life want to see you win, and they want to help you with that, but you want to see who really struggles with disappointment and let them struggle.
That's good advice. Do we have another question?
Okay, so my question is, it's kind of based off of where you headed now. Okay, so how do you set and maintain boundaries with people that you need that aren't mature in responding to your boundaries without turning into, Miss Independent? So it's like, these are my boundaries, but I need you. And either, they don't want to respect it, and then now we become Miss Independent. We have all these things on here because it's my boundaries. I want you to respect it, but I also need you. But you're upset when I, establish boundaries. So, what's your input?
Without having more information about the boundary and the need, it depends. But I think it also looks like there's a difference between I need something from you and I want it to be you. All right? I can tell myself that I need, and you're the only person who can do it. And sometimes it is very true that that's the only person who can, but in many situations, that's about a mental agility around, do I actually need this from you, or am I used to having it from you? Am I used to you being the one who offers me this thing? Is this something that if I did something different, I could offer to myself? I can get it from some other spaces, and that would take some work. So am I avoiding the work of grieving not having you to do this thing, or are you really the only person who can do this? And you have to think about how, depending on what, like I said, depending on what the need is, how dire that is and kind of how serious that is. But oftentimes that's a mental hook that we have, that you are the only person who can do this thing for me. So that's the first piece of it. The second piece is for you to envision, if this person didn't do this thing, what would happen to me? And oftentimes we don't walk ourselves through the stress cycle. We just stop at no, I just need it to be them. It just has to happen this way. But if we really walked ourselves through the stress cycle, if this person no longer did this thing, what would actually happen to me? What would I be confronted with? What would be hard? What might I need to grieve? Are there other people who can actually do that thing? I just haven't needed to think about them because this person has always done it. So there are a number of kind of steps to walk yourself through. The other piece is that as you are growing, it can be very difficult when other people aren't growing or aren't growing at the same pace as you. And there's a grieving that's there. So the work right there is to confront your grief, not get mad at them for not going at your pace. But what's coming up for me that I'm growing in this way, and this person is they're too immature to get it. They have a really harsh response when I'm taking care of myself. They get mad, they get nasty. They call me selfish, they call me mean, they call me names, they stop talking to me, they stonewall me. That is about their stuff. What's coming up for me if this person cannot move with me where I want to go in my life, right? So that's a grief process. 2, can I give them any feedback on that? I wish that you could understand this. I really want to do this with you. And 3, when you're able to engage in that process, you're also able to more clearly see, well, I wonder if there are other people around me who can be there with me, right? But growth requires grief. You can't get to a new place without letting go of something. And sometimes that's going to be people. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it is going to be people. And it doesn't mean the end of the relationship, but it means a transition in the relationship. If I accept that you are here and I'm trying to go here, then I can also accept that in order for me to get with you, I got to meet you down there. And if that's cool with me, then that's cool with me. But if I'm going to go up there, I can't keep waiting to bring everybody with me. They have their own life and they have their own lessons to learn. I cannot control how somebody learns lessons. That's a boundary, right? That's you differentiating yourself from somebody else. We made this the last one for a reason.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Butler. I have the pleasure, and I say a pleasure because I really do enjoy my job, of serving as the Director of Project Management for SMJ Communications. I posed a question in the chat before we came to the conference, and it was, how do you describe what you do for work if somebody asks you that?
I did see
And there were all of these different responses and all of these different answers. And the one that I normally get tell people when they ask me, what do you do for a living? I don't give them my job title. I tell them, I possess posture under pressure. And I think we all do that or have done that in some form. But even that, like, how do I set boundaries even in doing that? I don't want to always possess posture under pressure.
Then you
That's
need to
just
sit
what
down.
I do.
Then you need to sit down. Do you sit down?
I do not.
Oh, you just answered your own question. Right? So so we talked about having the language versus the courage. You know what to do. And because I don't know you, I don't know what the block is, right? But you haven't given yourself permission to sit down. Right? You are postured. You are a standing oak. You know how to do this under pressure. Your narrative for yourself is working under pressure, is being the tall oak under pressure, right? I wonder what that could look like for you if you allowed for more rest, if you didn't have to always posture under pressure, if you didn't have to always be under pressure. Like, I wonder what I wonder what language and what narrative and what description you have for yourself that is separate from pressure. You said that that's what you lead with. I can't do this. But by the end of the day, which is now, I want you to create a new narrative. I want you to create a new elevator speed that has nothing to do with pressure. Who are you when you're at ease? What does your rest state look like? What are you doing? What are you thinking about when you are not envisioning pressure or labor for yourself? Right? We ask children from a very young age, what do you want to do when you grow up? I was like, I'm not offering labor to a 3-year-old, right? But there's this narrative that's already there. We ask them what they want to do. Think about it.
It's true.
And we get all excited when they say astronaut and president, and I'm just like, go president. That's it. That's that. Again, when we think about president, we think about these roles that even children say. The things they say the most are things that put them in a position of power. When you want to be president, you have learned that means that I have power over the country. And then we say, great, you want to be the president. Look at these presidents. You want your child to be the president? I want you to be so much more than that. So I do not want you to envision a life of labor. But again, from 2 years old, we are indoctrinating children with labor. And then we wonder why 30 years later, people are tired, right? We talk about labor from quite literally from the time in which they are 2.
Yep.
I wonder what it could look like if you asked children, if you asked yourself, adolescents, and asked yourself at whatever ages you are now, what kind of relationships do you want to have and cultivate? What kind of friend do you want to be, right? What kind of member of the community do you envision kind of connecting as? Versus what do you want to do for work, right? Those are the kind of questions that then reinforce how we end up focusing on things in school. And then it's college, then it's this, it's another certificate, it's another this, it's another this. But that becomes indoctrinated at a very, very young age. So no wonder we are very tired. No wonder there is a mental health crisis, right? Because we are separated from ourselves at a very young age when I'm already teaching you how to focus on doing something, right? So I wonder what it could look like if your narrative did not include pressure. Use all the alliteration. It sounded great. I want you to develop a narrative in an elevator pitch about who you are, not how well you work under pressure. The narrative of black women is oftentimes, look how strong she is, because she did this, and she did this, and she did this. Even when I did this to her, she was just cool. She just, she had all this stuff going on. She's this in the church. She's all these roles under pressure. It sounds like there's a party that's internalized that that's a badge of honor, that I work well under pressure. And you're still going to see me standing while everyone else has dropped, right? That means that you're holding the energy of the room. They drop for a reason, right? I would like you to drop. Not drop dead, but like drop, rest. I just want you to rest. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I want you to rest. I want you to create a narrative for yourself that's not related or connected to pressure and labor. And I'd like to see what you come up with.
Love it. Do we have time, LB, for another question? We're all good? All right. Are we going to a break? All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ayanna. You guys give it up for Dr. Ayanna.